There is that element. You're not hard-nosed. You're certainly not quick to fire. And, you want to give people the best results and get the best out of people and give them the best future and opportunity that you possibly can. And maybe some of that is derived from the character that you build by being a spiritual person.
Welcome to the Kind Boss podcast, brought to you by Outsourcing Angel, an Australian-based social enterprise that specializes in helping business owners free up their time and reduce staffing costs, while helping to create employment opportunities for people in developing countries. Visit outsourcingangel.com today. Now, let me welcome your host, Linh Podetti.
Hello, kind listeners. I'm Linh Podetti, the host of the Kind Boss podcast, the podcast that shines the spotlight on bosses that lead by doing good and being kind. And today we'll be speaking to Scott Trevethan, founder of Go Global Bookkeeping. Known as the modern accountant, Scott is a small and medium-sized business evangelist. He is passionate about educating business owners and helping them to understand their finances so they could feel confident of a prosperous future. He runs Go Global, a team of accountants and bookkeepers in the Philippines who provide Australian businesses with affordable and highly valuable services. Listen on as Scott explains the value in having your finances in order and how you can do it for a fraction of the cost. Hey guys, and welcome to another series of the Kind Boss series. And here I have Scott from Go Global Bookkeeping. We have been working with Scott for a while now, and I thought he really suited the title of a kind boss. So here you are. Welcome, Scott.
Thanks, Lynn. It's very kind of you to say that. I do feel like a kind boss sometimes.
Thank you. So the whole point of me interviewing today is I really wanted to learn a little bit more about what made you decide to start into this bookkeeping kind of business, and even deciding to go offshoring, and then some viewpoints on the whole coronavirus, what's happening in your world. And then of course through that we want to get to know you and your journey and be inspired by you. So tell me more about your journey. Like, what made you decide to go, okay, that's it, I'm going to start a business?
Well, I was running an accounting firm for the last 16 years or so called Scott Partners, not named after me. It was a founder of David Scott. I knew that there was a better way to do from a labour perspective to get the tax returns done, the accounts done. And I was hearing about offshoring. So I went over to the Philippines and I just fell in love with the place straight away. Not with the place because it was dirty and grimy and lots of traffic, and I wasn't used to a lot of Asian cities. So it was quite overwhelming from that perspective, but the opportunity there, it just felt like there was so much opportunity that we could utilise. So started a team and grew that team quite successfully for Scott Partners up to about 8 people that were doing well, and that team continues to go well. And because it was brought to my attention that we had this sort of capability of doing that, why don't we do a bookkeeping and leasing offering for other accountants and for other businesses throughout Australia? So that's when Go Global was born in August 2016. And now I've sold the accounting firm and I just focus on this, Go Global. And Go Global was always, the accounting firm was okay. It was a good business, but I wasn't passionate about it. Go Global was definitely my passion project. So now that I'm full-time just looking after Go Global, I'm much happier and more.
Yeah. So tell me more about, what would be some of the myths or challenges that people think about using offshore bookkeepers? What would go through people's mind around that?
I guess one of the first things is, are they going to be good enough? They're not Australian, they're not, or they're not Western based. So therefore they haven't had the same sort of education. They wouldn't have the same sort of exposure to our accounting systems, and they really wouldn't understand, what it is that we do here in our Western countries. And that's the biggest myth of all. And it was a very surprising thing I found. The girls and guys are in Philippines in general, and I'm sure other countries as well, are just as well educated as they are in the West. They're just as passionate about what they do, and accountants everywhere. It doesn't take long to teach them and train them up on Australian taxation and bookkeeping, and then client experience has been absolutely amazing. So that's the real test, isn't it? It's not just
And so I know with your industry there's a lot more sensitivity around data and security. So can you tell us more about how you deal with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's an interesting thing because we were an office-based organisation, and through the current crisis we're now have most of our team members working from home, albeit as temporarily as we can get. So from a data security, and that is one of the big concerns that clients also have, that people are going to steal their data. And if they were a bookkeeper or an accountant and their client's data, they've got to be careful from a privacy perspective to what they do. So we make sure, first of all, we work on clients' data, not on our own. So we're not taking their data and using our own systems to convert it into their accounts. We make sure that we're using the cloud, we're using their system. So we're either VPNing into their servers, or if it's something like Xero, QuickBooks or MyOb Online, we can just go in and use their account. So we're not actually taking anything off them. We're just using their systems and processes.
Yep.
So we're locking down the security protocols on those. And then we have firewalls that make, antiviruses, all that sort of stuff to prevent those sort of attacks coming in.
Yeah. So I guess, can you explain a little bit more about the cost advantage? I mean, compared to if you're using someone locally or bookkeepers locally, like what is the difference between, I guess, your service and the service that they might come across here?
Yeah, and that's a good point, because you can certainly go on to Upwork and one of those places and sort of pay $5 an hour, $7 an hour for bookkeeper. They're the people that you will be highly exposed to data theft, identity theft, and not really sure whether people are going to be trained right or not. Model is around about 50%. So half of what you would pay for a local Australian accountant is what you should expect to pay for a very well-trained, supervised, secure, great value-adding service. And that's half of what you're paying locally. I think it's a tremendous cost.
Yeah. And I really love that you've got some really simple packages that people can really digest, and then depending on the size of your business, it's a lot, it's more affordable if you're smaller and if you have a lot more transactions. So can you tell us a little bit about those packages?
Yeah, absolutely. And they were a long time in the making, because it was kind of like, well, every business is different and it just really comes down to time, but we don't want to sell time. We want to sell results. And that's what our clients were really telling us, that's what they were looking for. They want to make sure, they don't care how long we spend. They just want to make sure that things get reconciled properly, that their accounts are right. And when they take it to their accountant at the end of the year or for their quarterly BAS work, that it's all just perfect and the accountant doesn't have to go, oh, this is all terrible. So we try to put it in a results basis. What do we need to do to make sure that the client gets the right result? And then with the packages, we're just adding on things as they go up along the packages. So it might be more intense reporting, quicker feedback times, more, it goes from weekly through to daily for the larger packages, just to make sure that those businesses are really up to date.
Yeah. When I first started my business like 8-9 years ago, nearly 10 now, I remember for many years, I didn't really look after my numbers. I just kind of worked and made money and didn't really know numbers. And can you tell us, maybe there are some people in that boat where they just feel like, oh, I don't have time for that, or I'm not a numbers person. Like, what is the problem if they continue doing that? And what kind of result would they get if they start to take care of their numbers?
Well, I think Warren Buffett says this best. He said, you can only discover who's been swimming naked when the tide goes out. And what he's really meaning by that is that in good times, businesses that aren't well managed, so in terms of, that's the business owner isn't quite across their numbers, they're not quite there. In good times, those businesses will be fine and they'll make money. They might not make as much money as they could, but they'll be okay and they'll survive. And sometimes that can be more tragic because they're just surviving rather than thriving. But in the bad times, which is what we're facing now, those businesses get really, really exposed, and people are flocking to us saying, hey, all of a sudden we need to understand our numbers. We need to get cash flow forecasts in place. We need to make sure that we're up to date so that we can survive the bad times. And I think that's right now we're really focusing on, if you're a business that hasn't got across their numbers, now you really need to, otherwise you're not going to survive this crisis.
Yeah, I agree. And I think definitely if you're really thinking about growing your business and scaling it, you really need to start learning how to deal with numbers from when you're smaller, because then as you grow more is when you will understand it. You then will be able to, see where, at the end of the day, it's not about revenue, how much you make, right? It's about the profit. And if you're just spending more than you have and you don't know what tools and softwares you're spending and the numbers are everywhere, it's just impossible to grow. It's always bleeding.
And you never know where the cash has gone. It's like, well, what happened? I thought we were doing good. And then 1 month you're up and 1 month you're down. You're not quite sure. And you just can't get that level of control that you're really looking for. It's like, because you don't know, if I do this, what result did it have? And it's like, oh, I did some Facebook advertising. okay, I spent $5,000 on Facebook advertising. What result did that happen? I'm not sure, because there's a time lag. But if you don't know exactly how your return on that investment, then you don't know whether to keep doing it or not. So
I love that. So the price wise, it's more competitive than using local. And because they are trained and also managed or supervised by you, who is an experienced accountant, then they're really getting the same quality result but for a fraction of cost. Is that the right summary that I could give?
yeah, absolutely. I really think, with cloud accounting, when Xero first came on the market, they blew up the whole models, which enabled remote bookkeeping to be done for the first time. So a lot of Australian-based bookkeepers, and I love Australian-based bookkeepers, sometimes they're not the most in tune with the way things are happening, but they're there now. Those bookkeepers often, they said, oh, okay, well, we'll change our model and we'll work from home, and then we'll be able to do so many more clients. But as soon as they did that, they opened up for the world market. So yeah, absolutely. Same quality, if not better quality products for half the price. And I'm not in this business to put Australian bookkeepers out of business. What I'm really passionate about is small and medium-sized businesses getting the accounting that they really need so that they can drive the results that they really deserve. Because they're the ones that employ people. They're the ones that have sleepless nights and all that sort of stuff. I don't care about big business. They're fine. They'll weather these storms. It's the smaller businesses that suffer because they don't have enough bookkeeping. They don't have enough bookkeeping because they think they can't afford it. Now they can.
Yeah. And yeah, I agree with you. I'm also in the outsourcing business, and I don't feel like I'm here to try to take every job from a local person. I just really think we should optimize local roles and get things that can be done cheaper overseas, but still retain the local people to do the more important work that's going to bring you the return on investment. And the other point you make that I'd like people to know is also, if you're looking for a partner company to work with, just look at the leader, look at the person that's running the company. Are they passionate? Are they experienced? So in your case, you do bookkeeping and accounting because that's what you're best at. Now, we never tried to get into outsourcing of kind of accounting, bookkeeping, because we knew that we don't know it, right? And if we don't know it, we can only hire people that based on them saying they can do the job, but we don't know because we don't know. That's why we stick to our lane, which is marketing, and you stick to your lane. And that's why we decided that it's best to partner with each other. If I know someone that needs accounting and bookkeeping, hey, go to Scott. Scott's going to take care of you.
Absolutely. And a lot of accountants especially will come to us and say, Scott, can you find us a VA? I love that term VA, but we'll get into that. Can you find us someone who can do the bookkeeping for our clients and also manage our social media, and if they can deal with Entrepreneur or Active Campaign as well, that would be great. I'm like, you know what? And if they can build a website, that would be cool. Exactly as you say, I've got no skills, experience in that at all. So I'm like, no, we just do accounting. That's our passion. That's what we know at. That's what we're good at. That's definitely our lane.
Yeah, and I'm really proud to be your partner because we've passed you some clients and you're still taking care of them really well. And so that's why, I only want to endorse and recommend the people that I know will do the great job. But before we continue with the next part, I just wanted to break it up with this high five questions. It's a this or that, just so we get to know you a little bit. So you just have to pick between the two options that I'm going to throw at you, okay? Okay, so number one, hope or freedom?
Freedom. I love hope, and hope is really, really important. I think hope is I'm reading a book on hope at the moment, actually, and talking about the difference between faith and hope. And faith is right now and hope is in the future. I don't know. I've always been about freedom and trying to ensure that people have got enough resources in order to do the things that they really want to do. So sometimes I think freedom is more empowering than hope, where hope just is like, I hope things work.
Yeah.
I have the ability to do what I want to do.
Yeah, I love freedom so much that I even have a tattoo that says freedom on my arm.
I do as well, one of these words.
Oh, really? Oh, wow, I love your arm tattoos. Okay, number two is a walk through the park or a walk on the beach?
Oh, I got to go a beach, and I'm spending most of my time walking through parks, but there's something about taking your shoes off, or thongs or slippers, whatever you want to call them, on and having your feet on the sand and just getting something about that to me is almost spiritual in nature, and I just love it. Yeah. But think that I live a long way from beaches, so parks are my main go-to, but beach.
Yeah, I think beaches is nice and peaceful, but at the same time there's sand and it's a bit harder to access to actually do it than park. Park's just easy. But yeah, I agree with you.
I was going to say, whenever I'm near a beach, I always make sure that I spend time walking on it, and if I can get into the water, if it's the temperature's right, jump in and have a swim. It's just magical.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. You got to wait for a good day, a hot day. Otherwise, it's like freezing cold on the water. Number 3, Vegemite or peanut butter?
Vegemite for sure. And there was a long time my mother was obsessed with peanut butter, and she would eat it by the truckload. I don't know, when I was a child growing up, that sort of turned me off it. I grew up on Vegemite, so I like peanut butter now, and I used to have it in my coffee, of all things, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. You just make a coffee, put some peanut butter in it, and put it through a blender.
I am going to try that today because I am really, I just need some excitement in my days right now.
Some sort of nut butter, almond butter works probably better, but peanut butter works too. And it's kind of like was my version of bulletproof coffee when I was a vegan. So that's another story. Vegemite for me, I love the saltiness of it. And
Number 4, perseverance or talent?
I think I've got to go for perseverance. I'm looking at that about myself at the moment and thinking, well, I do admire that quality about myself, that I do persevere. And I think sometimes I wish I had some talent that I was able to just pick something up and do it naturally. But yeah, I'm more of a grind it out, work hard, just stick at it type of person, I think.
Yeah. Talent can only take you so far. It takes perseverance, I must say, because I've seen a lot of talented people who just gave up, and then there's a waste of the talent. But whereas perseverance, we can always learn that talent and get better at it. So I agree with you. Number 5, apple or banana?
Well, I'm going to go banana. I don't eat much fruit anymore, but I'm doing a keto thing. But bananas are always, great. Potassium, after a bike ride or something like that, it's great to have a banana. Apple's just a little less sweet, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, cool. I love that. So, from what I've heard from you, I pick up a few things. You care about your health because you mentioned keto, you mentioned vegan, you mentioned a few things. Yeah, prior to us recording these, we started talking a little bit about spirituality as well. And of course, you're in business. So tell me, what's an example of your day? Like, what does your day look like? How do you fit in with all of these important areas of your life?
Okay, so I'm up at 5:30 on every morning, except Saturday morning when I allow myself a half hour or an hour sleep into 6:30. And I will do half an hour of exercise. That'll either be, at the moment, it'll be a home gym workout, or I'll go for a walk for half an hour just to get the blood pumping. Mm-hmm. And then I'll do a half hour meditation. And that, I really find, for me, more than anything else, other people get stuff out of meditation, but for me, it's like a fire hose on my brain, just clears all of that mess and noise out of it that's been left over from whatever I've been thinking about. And it just sets me up for the right day. And then I'll have sort of breakfast, and it'll be a keto-ish breakfast of eggs and bacon and vegetables and that sort of stuff. And then I'll clean up and make sure that I've started the day with everything perfectly right, immaculate. And then I'll do some form of self-education, some sort of training. So it might be a 15 or 20. At the moment, I'm very big into Mind Valley. So
I was that too. I studied a lot of that last year. Yeah.
So I'm doing a meditation course. Sorry, not a meditation, a hypnotherapy thing at the moment. I'm also doing life books. So I do that for a while, and then I'll set myself up. So I'll make sure that I've got, my list of, you can't see that, but a list of 5 things that I'm going to achieve for the day. And I'll do that in reference to my quarterly goals and my weekly goals. I'll set weekly goals from my quarterly and annual goals. And then I'll look at them every day and go, okay, well, these are really the things that I need to drive. And that's across all areas of my life, not just business as well. So yeah, it's quite exhausting by the time I get to 9 o'clock.
Yeah. What time do you go to sleep?
Last night I fell asleep on the couch at about 9:30, but usually about between 9:30 and 10 o'clock. I'm more of a morning person than an evening.
Yeah. And do you think that this whole routine that you've got there really helped you through this challenge, this crisis that we're going through? Because it's definitely for me as well. I'm glad that I've developed this routine prior to this, because it's given me a lot of strength. How about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely agree. So it's more about, that things start off as disciplines and then they turn into habits, and very much living a habit-based lifestyle in relation to that. So there's some key things that I just will not miss, no matter whether in lockdown or not. And that's got to be, I've got to get up early, I've got to do exercise, I've got to do meditation, because I know that if I don't, I'm not going to perform at my peak throughout the day. So I'm going to, at some point in time, I'm going to go, the noises in your head, especially in this period, will start, if I don't do meditation, they'll start talking doom and gloom, and then I'll be like, oh, my mental thing will go right down. So I think it's so important, especially in this environment, to just stick with those habits and that can carry you through.
Yeah. And do you notice, like, especially now that everyone's online and there's a lot of content online, what's your advice on how we could actually control the amount of content and where to look, what to learn? Like, how do you manage that for yourself?
So I've got some advantages because I've just moved into a new apartment and I don't have, and I'm here by myself, so I'm isolating, but I don't have the TV connected to the commercial TV station. So whatever content is on there, whether it's YouTube or Netflix, they're my two choices. I'm choosing what to watch, and I stay away from those news and the doom and gloom type of stuff. When I want news, I'll go to the source. So I do have ABC News, which still is a bit doom and gloomy, but I'll go to, say, the Cebu government's office to check out what's going on in the ground for my team to make sure that we're up to date with what's going on there. And then I'll just try and stay abreast of things, but without really buying into all of the disaster stories and noise that comes around with listening to the commercial news stations. I mean, you could listen to that 24/7 and you just go crazy.
Yeah. So it's really about just our self-control, self-boundaries, but we want to put in, like, whether it's time boundaries or what channel you're going to watch, and just be mindful of our mind. Whatever you feed it, it's just going to either empower you or disempower you. So,
I mean, I would love to say I had a lot of time off this as well.
Yeah.
And I certainly I'm mindful about trying to get spots where I don't use it. But it's really my portal to the world and in this environment. So, whether it's the online workout that I'm doing, that I'm casting from this to my TV screen, or whether I'm going for a walk and listening to a podcast, I need this tool to get that information out, but I choose what I listen to.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the thing. We can't avoid it. We just need to use it, don't let it use us. So I think that's the whole point. Prior to us pressing record, we started to talk about spirituality. And I really think that now that I've been in business for a long time, I found that my success has been a lot to do with faith. Like, if I didn't have faith in some of the things that I did, jumping from one stage to another, it took kind of this belief or faith that everything will work out. So do you really think that's important for an entrepreneur, not just to succeed, but to feel fulfilled or feel like calm or just feel right if they find their spirituality somehow? Like, whatever that God is, but it's just spirit. How does spirituality and business go hand in hand? How does it go in hand in your world?
Well, I'm not, to be honest, I don't think it does necessarily. I think it's very easy, well, not necessarily easy, but I think it's very possible to be a very successful business person and have no spirituality side whatsoever. That said, and maybe even it feeds upon itself, because without that spirituality that you have a hole. I call it the God-shaped hole.
Yeah.
In you for some reason, and you try and fill that with everything. You try and fill it with cars or with women or with alcohol or with food. It's all that sort of stuff. But it's a God-shaped hole. Only God will fill it. And so what happens then is, and I was part of this group called Wake Up Warrior in the US, and that was structured exactly because of this, because there was an epidemic in the US and in Australia and other Western countries as well of divorces among businessmen on the business that they're obese, they're not looking after their health, they're not around that side. So, but without having access to your spirituality means that you can be happy now. You're not trying to fill that hole with anything other than what the hole's all about, which is your connection to God. And so I think it's an incredible leg up, and it means that you're successful right now. I get this or I get that, or I have enough money in the bank, or my business does this sort of turnover. So
I think I agree with you. It's like you can be rich and successful in financial wise without spirituality, but with being spirituality, then you're caring a lot more about others and your surrounding and the well-being, and you just become more fulfilled versus like just, I guess, happy with your financial success.
Yeah, I guess that's a really good point in terms of that you make in terms of your surroundings and being more maybe compassionate. And I guess that's the title of this. This thing of the kind boss, because it's kind of like, well, yeah, there is that element. You're not hard nosed. You're certainly not quick to fire. And, you want to give people the best results and get the best out of people and give them the best future and opportunity that you possibly can. And maybe some of that is derived from the character that you build by being a spiritual person.
It definitely just feels good. Even if things are hard, at least you just feel good around good people and you're helping to keep the company because you care about the people. It's just a nice feeling, Yeah, I really love that. And yeah, coming to that question. So what does a kind boss mean to you?
I guess a kind boss is someone who treats the word boss as a responsibility. You are the lead servant. And I think if I can talk about spirituality a little bit, like, what Jesus taught this to the disciples at the Last Supper, and what he was really doing when he was washing their feet was saying, I am the chief servant. I am your number one servant. And that's what the boss really needs to be, the number one servant for all of the people that are in that, and if you in the organization. And if you treat it like that, not like that you're the king and everyone works for you. It's like, no, I serve everyone. Then you have a better mindset about it. The other thing is, I really like to put myself in their shoes, in my team's shoes. I don't call them employees. I've always called them team. I can't do what I do without them. We are a team effort. They can't do what they do without me. I can't do what I do without them. So, and every one of my team, I try to put myself in their shoes and say, well, how would they be feeling now? What can I do for them to make them feel better? And
I love that. And that's why you're here. I really loved hearing that. It was just feels so like, mushy but nice kind of feel.
I can get grumpy and I love that credit in the bank, for emotional bank with my team, that they can just now then tell me, say, Scott, you're being totally grumpy, you're being unreasonable about something, you need to reset. I'm like, oh yeah. Really need to put that in the bank. You can't just be, a mean.
Yeah. I mean, we're all human beings. We're not probably kind all the time, but I mean, we are kind majority of the time, but there are moments where we might react and get angry or stressed, and that's just normal human beings. But it's just defaulting to our true self, which is kindness. And then I love that. Even the fact that you said that just really showed how authentic you are. You didn't say, hey, yeah, I'm that best. You were already like, I don't think that I'm 100% perfect. And I appreciate that because you're being honest. Who do you best help in Go Global? Like, describe your ideal client that you feel like you can help best, and like what is their challenge and how can you help them this year?
A couple of things around that. So first of all, there's the small and medium-sized businesses, and we're sort of, when I talk about that, I'm sort of right from the startup businesses that have got themselves a Xero file or a QuickBooks file, usually a Xero file, but a QuickBooks file or a Mime file. They've started their business and they're going along, but they're not quite sure that they want to spend all the time doing the bookkeeping. So definitely we can help those guys. Right up to those businesses that have up to 50 employees and they've got internal accountants maybe, and they just need some extra grunt work around the edges. We're definitely well suited for that client. In terms of industry, we really cover every side of industry because accounting is accounting, which is good. When we have lots of restaurants, which has been a challenge, because the challenge for those guys is they convert. But it's important for them to understand their numbers as well. But we've got all sorts of businesses. So I'm not saying there's a specific niche that we can do. And then on our staff leasing side, so we do the full-time and half-timers for accountants. So we provide so if there's accountants out there saying, well, I need to get more work done, and I need to get into the offshoring side of things with someone who has done it all before and understand and really help me accelerate that process, because there is a big learning curve in terms of offshoring. So we can definitely help accountants and bookkeepers as well. Australian bookkeepers we work with, because some of those guys, they need to be out there helping their clients as well. So they are doing, they definitely need to get more team up and more capability so that they can do more things with their clients. So
I think for local bookkeepers, their opportunity is becoming more like a virtual CFO, giving advice, giving more strategies, and that's where you should spend your time and be able to handle more clients. And then all the mundane bookkeeping work, it's really like get someone else to do that.
Exactly right. And because they've got the one advantage that obviously offshorers or virtual workers don't have, and that is that they've got the ability to be eyeballing the client. They've got the ability to go out to their workplace and see, what's actually going on. As an accountant, I was always in favour of going to see a client's place of where they work, because it can tell you so much more than just having a conversation with the person does. So, are they neat and tidy? If it's a factory, is the factory well organised, or is it mess everywhere? Are they chaotic in terms of how the orders are coming in and how they're going out? Is the quality control really good, or is it really poor? Because all of those sort of things can give you some guidance exactly where you can help. And I think it's the same with local bookkeepers as well. I think there's a great opportunity for them to do that. Obviously, we're seeing more service-based businesses and more virtual businesses, and that's becoming less applicable, which is why the opportunity for someone like Go Global to give you bookkeeping at half the cost makes a lot of sense.
Love it. I'm on to my last question now, because we've spoken for nearly maybe 30 minutes now, and we can speak all day. My last question is, what do you want to be remembered for? If today was your last day, what do you want people to remember you for?
Really the two things that are driving me from a business perspective, and one of them, because I can say, let me answer that in two different ways. So from a business side of things, it's the two things that drive me are to make sure that small and medium-sized businesses get access to enough accounting that they can achieve their business and financial objectives as well. And number two, that we've been able to get the Philippines team that we run up onto the world stage so that they've got the skills and the experience to compete on a global scale rather than be forced, especially with artificial intelligence coming up and threatening to take over a lot of the lower level jobs that are traditionally associated with offshoring. Making sure that those guys are really knowledgeable and that they can compete on a world stage. That's my second.
Yeah.
From a holistic perspective, I think, what I'd like them to say about me is that, he always tried his best, not just tried his best, he was resilient in what he did because he persevered, and he just, he was passionate. I think passion is probably passionate about whatever he did.
I can feel it in you. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I really love that. Not only are you helping business owners, you can really see that you're trying to help people who are less fortunate than us in developing countries like the Philippines. And that's why we're both, we've got the same similar goal. And we see that people are people, whether they're here or they're Philippines or anywhere. We just want everyone to have that same opportunity.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Scott. It was really fun chatting with you.
It was fun. It's my pleasure.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Lynn.
Thank you for joining our podcast today. We hope this interview has inspired and humbled you to be a kind boss. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel and let us know what you think about our show. If you have any questions, please visit outsourcingangel.com. Until then, stay kind and spread love.